Welcome back to the Groove of the Week series. This time we're picking apart Raphael Saadiq's line on Q-Tip's WeFight, WeLove. Here's how it sounds.
You want identity, so you join this big fraternity. You get to travel the world, it's cheaper than college. And you get guns, and you get knowledge. Looking for your soul, in WMDs you can't find nothing, cause it's empty. You got your gun, and he's your friend, and he's your man. Until the end, we fight, we love.
Now this groove is a prime example of a bass player's number one job description, which is to be able to play the same thing over and over for 4 minutes without any fills or any variations whatsoever, which is tougher than it sounds. Consistency is remarkably difficult. Trying to play every note with the exact same volume, articulation and attack tone every single time is quite a tricky job. We're just playing essentially just a 2-chord thing, E minor and C, and the sharp-eyed amongst you will have seen that I'm playing it using a plectrum, because to my eyes at least that's how the bass sounds on the track. Sometimes it's quite hard to tell, but there's something about the attack of the bass on the recording that to me smells like a pick. Now, if you're one of those people that is adamant that real bass players use their fingers, then I strongly urge you to go and listen to players like Anthony Jackson, Bobby Vega or Steve Swallow, who are all shining examples of players who excel with a pick in genres that don't involve walls and walls of distorted guitars. So let's break the line down. So the first 2 bars outline an E minor sound, and what we'll see is that my fretting hand is doing quite a lot of work in order to control the note length and the articulation of the notes. Now, if you listen closely to the line and look at the notation, which is up on the website, you'll see that most of the notes are played staccato, to use the Italian term, which is short, choppy, detached sound. So this requires really precise fretting hand control from each finger to make sure that the sound from each note is clipped and it doesn't bleed into any other notes. So if I play the first 2 bars, so let's break that down. First of all, I've got this big jump from E down to F sharp. Now, of course, you can, I'm using a single finger, you can use 2 different fingers. You can start in your middle finger and pivot using your thumb to help your hand change direction. Personally, I spent a lot of time working on jumping from the same fret to different strings and trying to make the notes sound connected, and trying not to have big gaps, big silences between every single pitch. So here, that's something I think that's really worth getting together, is being able to jump from those 2 notes a minor 7th apart and make it sound relatively seamless. Same thing again there, jumping from B to E. So that's our first 2 bars. Again, I'm sort of bouncing off every note with my fretting hand to maintain that same articulation every note, making sure they're separate as they are on the track. From there, we're into our first time ending, which is outlining a C major chord. And the first time, we've just got octaves. Again, left hand, fretting hand rather, is working really hard to control those note lengths. So we're just playing octaves, so it's not that difficult. Now, this might be challenging for the right hand if you haven't done a lot of work using a pick. One thing that I do, which not a lot of people seem to subscribe to, is I start pretty much every line that I play with a pick using an upstroke rather than a downstroke. If I play the line again, if you watch my pick hand closely, you'll see that when it gets to the octaves, this really helps, because I'm going to be picking up, down, rather than down, up, which feels weird. So in some of those cases, I'm actually playing an upstroke on 2 consecutive notes, or 2 or more consecutive notes, I've probably got to the point where I don't think about my pick direction consciously. I did spend a long time working on strict alternate picking. I remember a solid fortnight when I was a teenager shouting at my hand, going down, up, to make sure that I could play alternate picking in scales, arpeggios, bass lines, whatever, without having to think about it. If you're new to it, it will take a long time, but it's worth persevering because, as I've said before, it opens up loads of new sounds to you. Now, in terms of my pick placement, normally, if it's like a rock thing, I want to be back towards the bridge to give it more bite. Here, I'm actually playing really close to the end of the fingerboard because I want a little bit more of a rubbery tone to match that on the track. So the strings feel a lot looser here. On a P bass, obviously, there's not a lot of tonal flexibility from the controls, so a lot of the sound shaping has to be down to your right hand, your plucking hand. So depending on where you want to pick the string, that will have a big impact on the tone. So first 2 bars. And it seems every week I talk about this question and answer thing in bass lines, where we have an opening statement and then different answer statements, as it were. So this is, again, another example of that. So we have the opening E minor statement again. And now we have a slightly different answer phrase over the C major sound. So there, we've got this interesting little shake with the fretting hand. This is to match what sounds like the synth bass, which doubles the bass guitar in the track, doing a little mod wheel bend. And this is the closest thing that we have on the instrument to being able to do a rapid pitch inflection. So these sorts of things are really common, sort of a funk bass cliche, if you like. You get this, that sound you would have heard before if you ever listened to Headhunters or the Gap Band, things like that. This is the same idea. Again, there are not enough hours in the day, but it's worth being able to achieve this sound with any finger on your fretting hand. So from here, I'm just shaking briefly a semitone up and then coming back. And for that, it's really important that I don't keep my thumb in contact with the back of the neck, otherwise my thumb gets left behind and it affects the quality of the movement. So if I put that in the line, we've got some fifths in there. It's root fifth and octave. And at the end, there's that rhythm that on first listen sounds like that sort of Questlove, Pino Palladino, slugging, drunk, hip-hop, whatever you want to call it, thing. It's not. It's just a triplet, really. That's all it is. What we've done is we've gone from subdividing the beats in 8th or 16th notes into having to subdivide in an 8th note triplet. And you're playing the first 2 8th notes of that triplet. That's all it is. So here's the whole line. There we go, a brilliant 8-bar picked hip-hop bass line from Raphael Saadiq that will challenge both your picking and your fretting hands. If you've got a favourite bass groove that you feel deserves wider recognition, then why not tell me all about it by leaving a comment below.